Hi, I'm Emily Watkins, and this is the WBFO Disabilities Beat.
This month, we're sharing highlights from the recently passed New York State budget for 2024 to 2025. One major change that came at the last minute, the Consumer-Directed Personal Assistance Program, or CDPAP, will move from being administered by hundreds of organizations to only one. This interview has been edited for length and clarity, but we have the entire discussion about the budget, including more perspectives and additional aspects of the budget on our website at WBFO.org.
First, I want to introduce Todd Varwerk from Western New York Independent Living.
Well, I'm the Chief Policy Officer at Western New York Independent Living. I'm a person with a developmental disability who's worked in the independent living field for 30 years.
Todd, tell us a little bit about what happened to CDPAP, as we call it, or Consumer-Directed Personal Assistance Program, in the budget.
CDPA, Consumer-Directed Personal Assistance. It's a program that the state's been very concerned about for a while because of what they refer to as explosive growth. In a 3 to 4 year period, from 70,000 people to about 250,000 people. Now, we can have an argument about where we think that growth comes from, but when we talk about CDPA this year, what they did was they said, we're going to cut out all of the fiscal intermediaries, and this is the way that all of the consumer-directed and even the self-directed services work, right? We work through intermediaries. We work through agencies that act as our representative, and in the CDPA position, they're the employer of record for the aid that comes to my house.
They're the ones who disperse that money from the state.
Correct, right? For the listeners to know, I'm a person in a wheelchair. I use 35 hours of consumer-directed personal assistance services per week. They come in to help me with the physical things necessary to help me get ready for work, keep my place clean, get me the drugs that I need on time, all that stuff, right? But it's not tied into as detailed a plan as the direct support professionals have. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of the same kind of work, and they get paid kind of the same amount that the direct service professionals get paid. But the state is worried about cost. State is worried about consumer-directed being a $9 billion industry. So coming out of the governor's 30-day amendments, where they just stuck a whole bunch of things in that says, we need to reform this program, we're going to give the Department of Health carte blanche to fix it. Well, we're a little concerned about that because Department of Health doesn't necessarily come to the disability community and say, hey, how's this fix going to affect you? They issue an emergency regulation, and before you know it, no aide would be able to work more than 40 hours a week. So we fought that in, for the listeners, what are called the one-house budgets. The governor comes out with her budget, and then the assembly comes out with their budget, and the Senate comes out with their budget, and all those budgets have colors.
And then you have the amendments, and then you...
Well, 3 people come in a room, and then they agree on one budget, and that's what the budget language is. At some point in this budget, they decided in discussion that they were going to have one fiscal intermediary statewide for all 250,000 people in the program. Now, the reason why they think that this is going to save money is because currently the number of fiscal intermediaries statewide is between 600 and 700. They're not even sure about the exact number because according to their research, 30% of those people don't fill out cost reports.
Well, and yeah,
as required by law.
And to be clear, there's been a known problem with these fiscal intermediaries. I mean, there was a report, I believe in 2018, from the Inspector General of the Department of Health and Human Services. And they basically said to New York State, hey, you got to give us $74 million in Medicaid back because we think it was reimbursed incorrectly through these FIs. So we know that there has been a challenge with regulating these FIs, but going to a single fiscal intermediary, how is that going to impact disabled consumers like yourself?
It takes away choice. Imagine if we said to the DD families on self-direction, hey, all of a sudden you're not going to be able to deal with that local agency that helps you develop your budget. We're going to give a gigantic state contract to an out-of-state guy who's going to come in and manage that budget for you. They're based in California or Pennsylvania or West Virginia. Now all of a sudden they've got a contract with the state and they're going to manage the services for you.
And to be clear, in the budget language, it says that that new FI does have to be someone who works in at least one other state.
Now, what we were able to do is we were able to remind the legislature about the disabled community that created this model. It came from the independent living centers and an organization down in New York City called Concepts for Independence, where we don't talk about whether or not you're hiring your relative to come work for you. We're talking about who you choose to hire so that you can stay independent in your home and proceeding with the goals that you choose for your life. A bunch of the other fiscal intermediaries just care about, and they advertise it. You can get a relative to come work for you and Medicaid will pay for it. So here's the state trying to deal with what we might refer to as bad actors, although every circumstance is different. And they come out of this thing saying, well, there's going to be one fiscal intermediary. Even we in the independent living community know that the model needs fixing, right? And the cuts should not come from me or my hours or the wage for the aide that gets paid to help me, right? That's one of the reasons why we're arguing about the model being more efficient, is because we want that administration money maybe to more go towards supporting salary so that that person can, still work for me and not take the job at Target.
Now, from my understanding, advocates were able to get in the budget that there will be a single FI, but independent living centers like yours and a couple culturally focused FIs will remain as subcontractors.
Correct. And I have to say, because I want your listeners to know that advocacy on disability issues is sometimes really complicated. We were really only successful in doing that based on the power of the consumers that came and also being able to get support from the major healthcare union in New York, right? So this is a whole thing where my life could have substantially changed literally on a week's notice, right? Because the proposal got announced by the governor on a Monday and was in the final budget language on Friday morning. This is how quick the New York State budget works, right? And it was because of our local delegation, especially the upstate delegations, and our work with all of the players to be able to turn the train just a little, just to make sure that there was subcontracting language. And even that language is as of yet unclear. So we're waiting for budget language to turn into regulatory language.
So as of right now, we know that these changes are coming and we don't fully know what they'll look like in the end.
The CDPA changes, I'm going to be really honest, I think there's going to be some legal challenges to them. So while they're coming, I don't think they're going to be coming as fast as the state would like them to.
You can listen to the Disabilities Beat segment on demand, view a transcript and plain language description for every episode on our website at WBFO.org. I'm Emily Watkins. Thanks for listening.